When you're not an entrepreneur, you're wondering, what do I want to do? Because you feel like you're not good at anything. That's everybody's story. Yeah. But we're all good at something, and the ability to be able to find out what you're good at is really the key to the answer.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what we avoid controls us. So if you're avoiding becoming an entrepreneur, what are the specific elements within you that's causing you to avoid that? And those are the things that are controlling you. That's where you have to start. So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking about, hey, I want to start a business, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to do something else, what do I do? Everything that I've learned in life, everything that helped me, the principles that helped me get out of homelessness, the principles that allowed me to go to college and get these tech degrees and become a consultant, I want to see if I can apply those same principles into fitness and achieve it. So discipline is actually the absence of self-sabotage.
Okay.
And here's why this shift is important. Look at my life. When I was fat and at a 41% body fat, trying to figure out how to lose weight and not able to, I was starting to question, am I disciplined? Because that's what social media tells you. Yeah. That's what the gurus tell you. And I was having this quandary that, okay, I was disciplined when I got myself out of homelessness.
Yeah.
I didn't become a consultant 7-figure without discipline. I didn't accomplish all these things without discipline. So how is it that I'm disciplined in these areas of life and not when it comes to eating?
Welcome to Design for More, the podcast where we unlock the secrets to healing, empowerment, and transformation. I'm your host, Angie. Today we have a special guest who's going to take us on a journey of growth, insight, and inspiration. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that follow button on Spotify, subscribe to us on YouTube, and of course, follow along on our socials. You don't want to miss the transformative conversations that we have lined up. All right, let's get started. I have today Mark Talukdar. Welcome to Design for More. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me, Angie.
Thank you so much. So Mark is an amazing man. I met him last year and he has been on an incredible journey. And I've actually learned a lot from you. So I'm so happy to have you on today. Why don't you start by letting us know kind of, your journey, what brought you into this significant role where you do so many different things?
Yeah. I grew up in India until I was 18 years old, and I was a young boy around 15, 16 years old. I wanted to come to the US. Growing up in India those days, US was this magical place, where you just go to become successful. And, I never really saw my life panning out in India. In Indian families, a lot of it is all predetermined. It's predetermined at birth. You're either going to be a doctor or an engineer, and you're going to marry this person. And that's all well and good. I just didn't fit into that. So I came to the US when I was 18. I was extremely naive. I had $80-some. And what does an 18-year-old know, looking back? But I had a dream and I had a vision. Where did that dream and vision take me? It made me homeless. I had this illusion that I would just come and start working and I will just figure it all out. Well, sometimes life doesn't go that way. So I became homeless. But despite all the challenges, all the naivety, this is one of the greatest countries in the world. And years down the line, I got myself out of homelessness. I got myself a degree in computer science and mathematics. I got a degree in master's in IT. I became an engineer, worked as an engineer for many years, and then realized, wait a second, I came here for freedom and I'm still slave to a 9-to-5 job. So I'm not really fulfilling my destiny. But I used to be a very shy and introverted kid growing up and all my life, just being in science and tech. You don't learn communication, right? Yeah. So I quit my job. I went to sales and marketing. It was baptism through fire. So we can go into that in deep if you want to.
Yeah.
I got out of that, got into professional consulting, started my business. And years down the line, I'm a 7-figure coach and I have multiple things going on and I'm very excited.
Amazing. That's such a powerful journey, but also I can definitely resonate with some of the stuff you said about you being South Asian, coming from another country. And, it's such a, like you said, it is a dream. And a lot of us feel like we're kind of put in this box where we have to do things, according to what society and culture wants of us. So literally this podcast title, Design for More, is your story. Like you definitely at some point had that question, like I'm designed for more and you needed more in your life, right? So thank you for sharing that. I think what I want to touch on first is your entrepreneurship journey, because I have in my coaching business, a lot of clients who come to me for career blockages. And some of the questions they have are like, how do I get to that point of my career where I actually have a passion for what I do? And I love going to work and I love doing what I do. So I know you talked a little bit about a shift. So tell me more about that.
When you're not an entrepreneur, you're wondering, what do I want to do? Because you feel like you're not good at anything. That's everybody's story.
Yeah.
But we're all good at something, and the ability to be able to find out what you're good at is really the key to the answer.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what we avoid controls us. So if you're avoiding becoming an entrepreneur, what are the specific elements within you that's causing you to avoid that? And those are the things that are controlling you. That's where you have to start. So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking about, hey, I want to start a business, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to do something else, what do I do? Start looking at your own skill sets and also start looking at what are the things that you're avoiding. Are you avoiding public speaking? Are you avoiding writing? Are you avoiding getting in front of a camera? Other than that, I want to mention that the minutia of life will get into way, right? It's different when you're 20 years old and, you don't have a, family or responsibilities versus when you're 60 years old or 50 years old, right? So there is creativity that is needed in understanding how to manipulate your schedule, how to find free times. If you're going to have the mindset that I work 40 hours a week and I want to start a business and I just want to seamlessly shift from working 40 hours a week at a job to a 40 hours of work in a business, it's just not going to happen. And that's the truth. Right. There are a lot of coaches out there who will sell you a dream, but that's all they're doing. They're telling you. They're not telling you the truth. The truth is, in order to transition from here to here, from a job to a business you're passionate with, you have to put in extra hours.
Right.
So when I was transitioning, I worked evenings, weekends, like nothing else. And I never burned out because burnout doesn't happen from a lot of work. Burnout happens when you don't have an end in sight. Right. So I always had an end in sight. I had a strategy. I knew within 6 months I will put in this much effort and this is where I will be, and then plan the 6 months out. So that's what I would tell people if they're looking to transition.
Okay. Mark, was there ever a point in your life where, I know you mentioned that there was a stage where you were homeless. So what was the turning point? Like, because everybody always tells me there's like this significant moment in their life where it's like that aha moment. So was it that moment when you were like, okay, I'm homeless, or was there, like a combination of things? Like, what was that moment for you?
It wasn't the homeless moment. And I'll tell you why. When you have nothing to lose. So you try anything and everything.
Yep.
The aha moments need to happen when you have something to lose, because that's what we call our golden handcuffs, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's too good to leave, but it's too bad to stay, much like with relationships.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm just dealing with it. This job, I kind of hate it, but I make a lot of money and it pays all the bills, but I am also kind of not like fulfilled. That's the moment that people can get past. And for me, that was when I was a professional consultant in New York City. I was making more money than I could ever imagine. I was living the life. I was living in Midtown Manhattan, in a higher house, in a 2-bedroom apartment, like living the dream, a high 7-figure consulting role.
Yeah.
And when you have come out of homelessness, when you have come out of nothingness, and you've built yourself to that point, the idea of resetting that and going back to becoming an entrepreneur where your now salary is zero is extremely scary.
Right.
For the aha moment for me in my business journey was just realizing that I am spending my time creating products that I don't really care about, because as a consultant, that's what I did. Right? I went into other companies and solved other people's problems. I wanted to create something of my own. And the decision was, I came from nothing and I'm not afraid to go back to nothing, but I will not ruin my entire life serving some other master. I had to give up my father, my mother, my family, everybody.
Wow.
Come to America.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that to serve somebody else.
Yeah.
Because that would have mean my entire life was a waste. So what? I'm making all this money. I probably could have done that in India, right? We don't know.
Yeah.
So that was the changing moment for me.
Wow. That's very empowering. You mentioned that you had to leave like mother, father, like immediate family. So what was that like? How did that feel? And are you in a different place with family now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I came to US in 2005 and I went back home in 2006 because I had a girlfriend that I needed to bring with, and I didn't want to do it over the phone.
Yeah.
And the next time I went back was in 2019.
Okay.
So it was, and until date, it's been only 2 times I've been to India. So my family comes and visits me. I didn't want to go back because I didn't want to go back like feeling like a failure. Because for a very long time in my life, I didn't know if I was going to make it. We all talk about anxiety and depression and all of those things. And there are a lot of gurus out there that just tell you can wish those away. You can outthink your way out of it. As someone that has lived decades in this space, it's very difficult to deal with.
Right.
Today people look at me and they see I'm so successful, and without knowing any of my stories, they think about it was just handed to me, and it wasn't. Right. Yep. So walking away from my family at that age, it was very scary, but I was also extremely naive until date. Yeah. I think naivete is my best suit. I think adulting is a gradual process of stopping to dream. Yeah. When we are kids, we dream about this and this and this, and we're so excited. And then the real world just beats it into you. It's never going to be happen. So the older you go, the less of a dreamer you become. But I've held on to that part. Yeah. And that has always helped me go to a next level without thinking a lot about why I wouldn't be successful. My idea is still think like a kid, like, oh, I can be an astronaut, and I just go do it.
And that's so important that you mentioned that, because, in my line of work, I do a lot of inner child healing, and the concept of that is really connecting to that child inside you, right? And I love that you brought that up, because it's like, you said, like, I'm really still naive. I'm still almost childlike. And that's important, because we forget that. Like you said, life comes, you hit stress, you hit challenges, there's lots of bumps in the road. But if you can bring yourself back to that little boy you were, or that little girl you were, and really connect to that inner child, it makes life so much more enjoyable. But it also allows us to feel motivated and really attain that love and peace and happiness we want, right? So, and I think you've got the handle on that big time. Yeah. So let's shift the conversation a bit, because I know you have this amazing physical health journey as well. Let's talk about that. That's super important.
When you start a business, your business is your baby. And when you watch your baby, you don't look at the clock, right? Yeah. When you don't look at the clock, you lose sight of things. So what I lost sight of was my health. I told you my story about how I came from nothing. Failure wasn't an option. So if it required me to work 20 hours a day, I worked 20 hours a day, and with that, there was a lot of meetings with clients and living in Manhattan and, living the life and working, not getting physical exercise. I found myself ballooned up at a 41% body fat. And I always thought, oh yeah, I can go back to it whenever I want to. And at some point I realized I can't. I had sleep apnea, so I couldn't sleep at night. If you stop breathing once a night, it's called sleep apnea. In order for you to be diagnosed with sleep apnea, you need to have 5 times you stop breathing at night. So 5 apneas per hour. Yeah. Severe is 15. I was at 87. So I stopped breathing 87 times in the middle of the night. But life is such, so many of us, when we look at retrospect, whether it be bad relationships or decisions we have made, we look back at it and say, how did I get here? Because in retrospect, everything is obvious. And that's what I was feeling. Yeah. My son was born 3 years ago in 2021, 4 years ago, I guess. Now, he'll be 4 in October. And that's where the next aha moment came. I held that little baby in my hand and I thought, he's going to grow up without a father, much like I grew up without a father, because I voluntarily left when I was 18. But at least I had 18 years of parenting. Yeah. Right? He's not going to even have that. Oh. I'm just going to drop dead. Because I couldn't put the sandwich down. Yeah. Or put the alcohol down. For a good reason. Yeah. So as entrepreneurs, we're nothing but crazy. And we don't know how to do something just a little bit. We go all in. Yeah. And I also was very angry at myself for allowing this to happen. Oh, okay. And there are a lot of things at play, as coaches, you also have to sometimes step back into the ring to prove to yourself and to prove to everybody else that, I still got it. Yeah. So there was a lot of things that was happening here. I'm not a young buck anymore. I'm going to be 40. But I was like, okay, well, not only I will lose weight, but I'm going to become a professional bodybuilder. Yeah. Right. I want to take it to the extreme and see everything that I've learned in life, everything that helped me, the principles that helped me get out of homelessness, the principles that allowed me to go to college and get these tech degrees and become a consultant. I want to see if I can apply those same principles into fitness and achieve it. Oh, okay. July 27th, 2022 was my first day into the gym. And my first bodybuilding competition was 2024 April. I won every single bodybuilding competition. December of last year was the first time I went to nationals. I came in 6th. And this year I plan on going and becoming a national champion.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. And congratulations. And I do follow you on social, so I see your journey, and I'm actually just amazed because, I've seen your before pictures and I've seen your current, and it's the transformation is like, wow. And that takes a lot of, I would say, just a very strong mind, but a lot of discipline. And I know you mentioned that you took some of the things you learned, like, just in life and in consulting, and you applied it to physical health. So what are those things in case somebody in our audience is watching and they want to, really apply some of these things that you've learned in your life to their lives or to their career?
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you brought up discipline because I have a lot of things to say on that. My brand is a peak performance brand, right? So I have a book coming out called Peak Performance Habits next year, in which I talk about a topic that at least I have not heard anybody else say. Okay. And I talk about a topic that discipline doesn't exist. There is no such thing called discipline. Mm-hmm. What exists is self-sabotage. So discipline is actually the absence of self-sabotage. Okay. And here's why this shift is important. Look at my life. When I was fat and had a 41% body fat, trying to figure out how to lose weight and not able to, I was starting to question, am I disciplined? Because that's what the social media tells you. Yeah. That's what the gurus tell you. And I was having this quandary, like, okay, I was disciplined when I got myself out of homelessness. Yeah. I didn't become a consultant 7-figure without discipline. I didn't accomplish all these things without discipline. So how is it that I'm disciplined in these areas in life and not when it comes to eating? Because the way we think about discipline is that you either have it or you don't. Mm-hmm. We say, you're a disciplined person, you're not a disciplined person. Oh, you want to be successful, go become disciplined. Yeah. But that wasn't true, and my life was a testimony. Right. So I had to sit down and think about discipline in a completely different way. And I thought, oh, wait a second. It's not the discipline that I lack. It's that I'm actively self-sabotaging myself by indulging in habits that are stopping my progress. Wow. And the way I visualized it is that discipline is like this heavy backpack. Anytime anybody tells you, Angie, you need to get discipline XYZ, it's like a backpack you put on. Oh man, I got to do this and do this and do this. It's an active effect. Right? Self-sabotage is more like walking to the forest and you have all these branches and obstacles. You're just removing them one by one. Okay. It's a very liberating process as opposed to a claustrophobic discipline process. So I no longer advise my clients or myself on becoming disciplined. I approach it in a very different manner. Okay. I start asking questions. Okay, what are the things that I'm doing to sabotage myself right now? And maybe the first thing I do is, I wake up and I drink a really sugary coffee drink. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's stop doing that. I'm going to stop sabotaging my success by just doing that one thing. Right. And it's the slowly peeling away layers of self-sabotage that gets you further in life. And it's exciting because you're freer. Every layer of self-sabotage you put away, you're winning, as opposed to, here's another 10 pounds I put on of habit behavior. It's crushing me. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And I think I can even apply those tips and advice into my own life, because like you said, that self-sabotage is huge. I know you mentioned earlier, anxiety. Did you go through a period where mental health was an issue for you? And how did you overcome that? Because again, that will relate to a lot of our audience, but also I want to know more about that because, that's a lot of my work. Yeah. I mean, anxiety is a beast that has many heads, right? So we have to be very specific about anxiety. I get anxiety every day. When there is something at stake that we think we don't have any control over, in this context, that's what creates anxiety. Okay. Right? Mm-hmm. So you're an entrepreneur, you're waking up in the morning and you're feeling anxious. Mm-hmm. The root cause might be you're worried about sales, you're worried about you quit your job, and there are elements that you don't know if you can control it or not. Yeah. Right? So every single day, I'm running a business, doing 100 other things, and I'm afraid. Am I going to be able to do it? Am I not going to be able to do it? Is the unknown that scares us. Yeah. How do I deal with it? Other than the conventional, what you hear about, go for a walk and meditation and all this stuff, I am more into understanding the root cause of that anxiety. Okay. I have the ability to just stop the fear, put that on hold for a second, and just work through what is the root cause. And I start peeling the layers out from the root cause.
Okay.
That is the meat and potatoes. On top of that, I will garnish with workout and sleeping and hydrating and food and good conversations and family. And a lot of people do the second part, which is the garnish, but they never take care of the meat and potatoes. So the anxiety never goes away.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a great point. And I think that definitely will apply to a lot of our clients because mental health is such a huge thing right now, right? Like, and overcoming that is so hard. So I love that concept of the meat and potatoes.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to look inwards.
Yeah.
No, we need to cut the noise out. Everybody has an opinion, right? But at the end of the day, I know who I am and I know what I'm capable of. And sometimes it's extremely hard to cut out all these voices.
Yeah.
But that's where the game lies. Our ability to cut the noise out and just focus within and screw what anybody else is saying, pardon my French, right? Just doing the best that I can do on a very specific moment, on a very specific day.
Yeah.
I'm not lying to yourself, right? Yeah. That's a huge thing. I don't know how we have ended up in a society where relationships are all about lying to each other, right?
That's so
we
true.
Don't tell the truth. I'm not your friend. If you come to me and you say, hey, these are the things I'm feeling, even better example, you put on a dress and you're like, how do I look? And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, you look really good, right? But I'm like, oh, you look wonderful, right? I'm lying to you, but it has just become the way because telling somebody the truth has become inconvenient. And because we don't want to inconvenience anybody, we're all telling each other lies.
Yeah.
So I don't want to lie to anybody else, and I definitely don't want to lie to myself. So I'm very truthful about, okay, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? What is the actual truth of where I am? And then cutting the noise out and then just focusing on peeling those layers away.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah. And it's true. Like, the truth makes us uncomfortable, but it's about being in that moment of uncomfortableness and processing, why am I uncomfortable? Why do I feel this way? So yeah, I love that. So we're going to come to an end soon, but before we end, I want to ask you, what is one or more tip or advice that you would give to our audience on the career path of becoming this amazing, successful entrepreneur? Because I know you are very successful, and I want to know if you have any advice for our audience out there that would resonate with them.
I mean, there are so many things you can do, right? It's a difficult question, but what I will say is this: the simplest way to do is start testing. If you have an idea, start getting free clients. Reach out to people and say, hey, I want to do this thing. Be open and honest. You're my first client. You're my second client. I know you have this need. Can I do this for you for free? I can't tell you how many free clients I took before I became where I am, because that's honesty. And that's, then you don't have imposter syndrome. Think about it.
Yep.
Why there are so many coaches with imposter syndrome? Because, they're always showing themselves to be somebody that they're not.
Yeah.
They know from within they're not. Right? You can avoid a whole lot of stuff this way. Go and find somebody who wants your service for free. Do it. Get better at it. The second person, do it for free. Get the third person, do it for free. Now you're building a portfolio. You're getting testimonials. You're getting actual experiences. You're doing case studies.
Right.
You're building yourself up. At some point now, you have enough proof that you're talking to people and you're starting to charge them a little bit of money. Eventually, you go back to your free people and say, listen, I've worked for free for so many years, or so many months, or so many weeks. Hey, can I start charging you? And if you've been doing good work, they're going to let go of you. That's how you want to start. Where honestly, Angie, everybody fails. Because everybody wants to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
And I tell this to clients all the time. When I interview my prospects to take on clients, I ask them, are you looking for a magician or are you looking for a coach? Because I'm not a magician. There is no magic.
Yeah.
I went from a 41% body fat to a competitive national championship body of 5.2% body fat. There was no magic stick. It was just the plain old diet and plain old working out.
Yeah.
But if you can just overcome that, I need a magician mentality, I need a magic trick mentality, you can accomplish anything in life, because everything in life is really that simple. You start small and you get experience and you keep building on top of experience.
Right.
So that's what I would suggest your clients, listeners do.
Yeah. So just keep at it. Don't give up. And small steps is still moving forward. And the fact that you said, take on some free or pro bono clients, I think that's amazing. Yeah, because you're right. A lot of people don't want to do that. They want like an overnight success story. And I think that's pretty rare, but and
it's almost impossible. I am telling you right now,
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
But the problem with social media is that it'll convince you that it's possible. You see these ads all the time. No followers, no this, no that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help you launch a $10,000 a month coaching program. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's literally just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, unless you're the son of or daughter of somebody who's super duper famous and you have that name that's bringing you. Yeah, sure. Other than a nepotism scenario, it's almost impossible.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's important for our audience to hear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like social media has warped the way of fitness, right? Everybody's like, how many people start out the new year with the new resolution because they have seen some ad and if you look at the statistics, if you look at the search results, how to lose 10 pounds in 1 month is like one of the highest search result traffics because nobody wants to lose 1 pound in 1 month. No. Nobody wants to lose 2 pounds in 1 month. When I tell people I went from a 41% body fat, I lost over 100 pounds, right? In a year and a half, almost, people are like, oh my God, how'd you do it? Do you realize that in a year and a half, there's like 70 plus weeks? If I just lost 1 pound a week, that's 70 pounds right then and there. Yeah. So it's the little small changes that actually have a huge impact.
Right.
And when you do them, it does seem magical. When I tell people I lost 100 pounds in a year and a half, they're like, my God, this is magical. It wasn't. It was just 1 pound a week.
But that's, that makes sense. So like goal setting and being really consistent with it, but also being realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consistency, realism, and self-forgiveness.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe there is a time when you couldn't go to the gym. Maybe there was a day your kids were crying and you couldn't do the work that you need to do on your business. It's okay. We don't have to live. People live in this binary world. They get gung-ho and they're like, that's it. I'm going to do this now.
Yeah.
And they go really hard, super hard for a couple of days and it's not sustainable. Right. And then they crash. And then in the crash, they're like, well, I knew it. I suck. I knew it wasn't supposed to be. Right. Because the methodology is wrong. Right. We don't have to be that way. Have a strategy, be realistic and truthful about what you can achieve. I have clients who are mother of 3 kids, single mothers of 3 kids, right? And they start with me and I'm telling them, listen, you're not going to be able to work 60 hours a week or 50 hours a week. It's just not possible. Well, I want to. I know you want to. You'll do it for 3 weeks. And then what happens? Right? So let's come up with a truthful, realistic plan about what you can do so that you can do it consistently.
Right.
And then that element of self-forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very important too, right? That compassion, like give yourself compassion because you're the only person who needs to validate yourself. But that compassion piece is so important. And I think we don't do that enough. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So before we end today, Mark, I just want to ask you if there's anything you want to share with our audience. I know you're doing amazing things. You mentioned you're writing a book. I know there's a documentary in process. So do you want to discuss any of that? Or is there anything any offerings you want to share?
My website is peakperformanceworld.com. I also have a podcast. If you're looking to share your story, you're more than welcome to come and I'll interview you and determine if you're a good fit. My business is honestly helping myself 25 years in the past.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Every single product, whether it be LinkedIn marketing, YouTube marketing, coaching, to start your business, to grow your business.
Okay.
I am teaching in a way I wish things were when I was starting out. Because believe it or not, behind this successful person, there's hundreds and thousands of dollars of mistakes I made because either I didn't know something or I was taught the wrong thing. Okay. So, I too was a victim of programs that don't work out.
Yeah.
Right. So we all, have to become the voice that we need to hear, become the change that we need to be. So that's my business. I do LinkedIn marketing, YouTube marketing, business coaching, the whole shebang. If you're looking to, get some information, reach out to me and then we'll have a chat.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today. It was a very amazing, enlightening discussion. Wish you the best. And I will continue to follow you on socials as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angie. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.